Mr. Bates here, and we're going to go ahead and turn this shape into a form, or at least give it the illusion of form using value. So I'm going to do that with three pencils, one ranging from lightest to middle to dark. And before I do that, I'm establishing a light source. This light source is based on where the indicated cast shadow is on the bottom right hand side. Now I'm going to begin with the 4H, which is the lightest that we have out of the three, and begin to establish a ground. I'm going to color in the necessary places that need to be colored in lightly based on where the highlight's going to be on the upper left hand side. That's the only place that I need to leave white. So I don't need to stall. I can go ahead and color in most of the sphere, about 95%, very lightly. Work light to dark. If you work dark and you go too dark too soon, it's going to be hard to recover. So work light to dark and build and layer. Right now we're taking my the HB pencil. It's like the number 2 pencil, middle pencil of the three, and I'm going to begin creating a middle tone, focusing more on the area by where the cast shadow is going to be, because that's the part where least amount of light is going to be hitting the surface, right? So I'm going to tread lightly as I go further towards the highlight, but I'm going to go continue letting that 4H show through, but I'm going to start covering and blanketing towards like the bottom part of the sphere with my HB. You see how I draw? I'm using the back end of the pencil. I'm relinquishing that control, and that's something that I've been preaching ever since the first week of school. That way, if you're heavy-handed, you don't draw too dark. When you draw too dark, you end up scoring the paper, and no matter how many times you erase it, it becomes troublesome. Now I'm grabbing the 4B pencil, and this is the darkest out of the three that we have. There are darker pencils, but we're going to keep it very simple and just use 3. Now I'm getting a little braver, and I'm going to go a little darker in areas that I feel need it. Mainly where the core shadow is going to be, and mainly the place where the least amount of light is going to be hitting the sphere. You see that I work with the side of my pencil. I cover more ground that way, and as you do it, you're actively sharpening your pencil, working on the side of it. It's like sharpening a tool or sharpening a knife, and you just keep twisting your pencil around and using the side of it. You cover a lot of ground. You work with the tip, then you're going to etch and score the paper, and no matter how great your work is, through the light, people can see where you scored into the paper, and it looks kind of ugly. So right now, building that cast shadow, and this is a game changer, right? So when I build this cast shadow, it automatically forces me to go darker in other areas. So now I'm pressing and going a little darker, especially with that reflective light in the bottom right-hand side. Doing that cast shadow helps me understand what needs to go darker, what needs to remain lighter. It's like color theory, which we'll learn next project. Colors change how other colors look when they're next to each other. Same with tone. So just still easing my way in, and I'm switching pencils in and out. So I went all three pencils. I went from 4H, HB to 4B, and then I bounced back and forth between 4H and HB from time to time, and I'm just blending it in, going over some of the darker areas, continuing to gradually get darker towards the lighter areas. And so this is what I'm doing. I'm still using the side of my pencil. I'm not scoring in, and it's still kind of loose and very raw, but you know, you can see that I'm building, and it's starting to look slightly more realistic and more believable as an object instead of something that's flat on the paper. So I'm darkening this cast shadow, and it makes me want to go back and continue. It's like tug of war. Now I need to go and make this darker. I need to make that lighter. The darkest part is going to be right under the sphere. That is where the least amount of light is hitting the surface. So I want to emphasize that, right? One of the principles of designs, emphasis, we want to go ahead and create that emphasis in this sphere. And now I'm going back and I'm darkening certain areas, trying to punch it up. People think that just because when you add a shadow, it's like you're indicating something that's going inverted. But sometimes that shadow can be make something more pronounced and look like it's coming at you, like that core shadow, that dark ring, right before it hits the surface. It makes it look like it's coming out at you. So these shadows can be used for several different purposes. And so watch that I'm starting to darken a lot of places, especially the edges and where the least amount of light is hitting it, right? So in the bottom right hand side, not a lot of light is hitting it, so it's getting a little darker. And I'm going to continue to take my lighter pencils and go back and forth and rework and get a little lighter or get a little darker gradually in certain places. I don't want to continue using my 4B because that would eventually be overkill, and I might go too dark when I don't want to go too dark. So at this point, you can start using a little bit of your tip if you want to get some more finite detail. You want to get something, make something a little darker. But this is pretty much it. I'm wrapping it up. But as you can see, here it is. And wish you the best of luck. I hope you learned something. Work light to dark. Don't start too dark. And use the side of your pencil and relinquish that control.